Greetings and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix rocking a brand new microphone today. How do I sound out there? I am now, hold on a second. Greetings and welcome to another edition of Free Association, the Robert Phoenix Show, 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'm rocking a new microphone today. I had to power up there. How does it sound? I am enunciating into the Florian. This is a professional microphone. This is all part of the new self-improvement year 2017, the Fire Rooster, or as we called it yesterday, the year of the Flaming Cock. Speaking of flaming cocks, the fallout from Milo Yiannopoulos is it's kind of like the fallout from the Vesuvius and the ash, Mount St. Helens in Berkeley. I was watching an interview last night with, it was on Channel 2. Channel 2 is the TV station they grew up with in the Bay Area. It's based out of Oakland, Jack London Square. That's where I watched Captain Satellite as a kid. Anyway, there was an interview with this woman. I think her last name is Falaka. And she's being interviewed by a host on the local version of the evening news there, 10 o'clock news. And what I found interesting about the interview was that there was a new level of radicalism and a new level of anger and angst that has entered into the discussion about free speech, about overthrow, about regime change. This woman was basically saying, by any means necessary. By any means necessary means that she wants to overthrow the status quo of the government by any means necessary, whether it's violence, whether it's through the desecration and the destruction of personal property, doesn't matter. And the debate centered around whether Milo Yiannopoulos had the right under the First Amendment to share his point of view. And she unequivocally said no, because it is hate speech. Now, we've entered into this kind of gray area around hate speech. And hate speech was instituted by a couple of different people, and there is a classical kind of definition now of what a hate crime is. It's not just a crime anymore. It's a hate crime. And a hate crime actually carries a higher and stiffer penalty if it is deemed that the individual is not only committing a crime, but with hateful intent. Now, the hate crime legislation and the hate crime laws were promulgated and popularized by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And apparently the person that actually wrote the hate crime bill, which got passed, which is about as close to carving out the First Amendment and disabling it, that was created by Abraham Foxman of the ADL. He helped write the hate crime language. And because we have the hate crime bill, we now have this kind of gray area with hate speech. And an activated, organized activist reaction / response to people who have a different point of view, who have a differing opinion. We are no longer in the arena of being able to have differing points of view. That's not where we are. Because this woman, I think her name is Katie Falaka, if I'm not mistaken, she made it clear that if the individual was crossing over a line into what they would term hate speech, that it was not going to be allowed. They were not going to allow it. First of all, they put pressure on the chancellor at UC Berkeley, who would not stop the event. And so, as a result of that, the fallout, the nuclear ash from all this rests on the chancellor's shoulders. So if there was damage done to nearby businesses, which there were, the responsibility rests not in the hands of those who perpetrated the damage. The responsibility rests in the hands of the chancellor, who would not cancel the event. So any blood, any injuries, any destruction to private property, public too, it all just sits at his feet. It's his fault because he didn't cancel the event. He didn't cancel what would be called. And the reason why we're in such a dangerous place is because of the bill that was passed with hate crimes. There's this gray area now. It's a very gray area about what you're able to share. Is society better if we have this gray area where our thoughts and our words are regulated? Not directly, but indirectly, not overtly, but covertly. Let's get into this a little bit. Let's get into the hate crime bill. This is an important development, that hate crime bill. Let's just look at this. This is so we have a hate crime bill of 2009, 2014, and 2016. Okay? So let's go back to the original, which passed. We don't want the hate crime. Okay, so there's the 2013 version of the hate crime bill, which is S2219. Okay, so 2013, 2014 version of it. The 2009 version of it. Let's see what we have here. All this goes back to Matthew Shepard. This is the Matthew Shepard Act, hate crimes bill signed into law 11 years after. So this is 2009. The whole Matthew Shepard thing, I've gotten into that before. And I'm not going to get into it today. We don't have enough time. But this is where it all starts. So it's in 2009. And then we go to 2014, and then we go to 2015 or 16, which is the latest version of it. Let's go to the hate crime bill of 2014. So this is S2219. I'm just clicking open the link here. This is a bill, Congress Senate bill, and I'm just waiting for it to open up here. Because these bills have passed, we now have a gray area on not just hate crime, but what we call hate speech. It says the Hate Crime Reporting Act of 2014 directs the National Telecommunications and Information Administration to update a report for Congress concerning the role of telecommunications in the commission of hate crimes. So this is an update of the original bill. Requires such reports include analysis of the use of telecommunications, including the internet, broadcast television and radio, cable television, public access, et cetera, and other electronic media to advocate and encourage violent acts and the commission of hate crimes as specified in the Hate Crime Statistics Act, NTIA. That was from 2009. And 3 updates concerning the role of telecommunications in crimes of hate and violent acts against ethnic, religious, and racial minorities. So what's happened here is we have this intercessionary legislation which has gotten involved in the business of free speech. This is what's happened. A crime is a crime. It's a crime. If there is some justification to add hateful intent and to expedite or the process of prosecution or to amplify and increase the term as a result of a conviction, I think we're on slippery ground here. Because when we get into this area, there's a subjectification, right? One person's idea of what hate is might be another person's version of free speech. Now, you can denounce that person. You can say, hey, look, I don't agree with you. I won't support you. If you go on tour, I'm not going to support you. Yes, you have the right to protest. That is part of the fabric of being an American. You have the right to do that. But to do so to the point where an event is shut down, to do so where there is public and private property that are damaged, to do so when there is violence used against people who are in support of that person or the right to speak freely, lines are being crossed here. And where's the hate coming from now? Where is the hate coming from? It's so ironic because in order to denounce fascism, which apparently is the trendy new buzzword, in order to denounce fascism, the other side has become fascist. Isn't that ironic? The other side has become fascist. These are very interesting and at times disturbing and troubling times. But we are in a process of, how do I say this, dissemination in some ways. You know, I call Trump the great disruptor. Reagan was the great communicator. Bush was the great decider. Remember that, the great decider. Obama was the great divider. Trump is the great disruptor. And some of this disruption is coming back to bite him in the ass. And remember, astrologically, he's got Saturn on his moon and Saturn on his south node where he lives, down in his 4th house. And we've got leaks. There are leaks coming out of the White House. I mean, it's clear that the leaks are coming from people that were part of the Obama administration. I mean, they have clearly and openly stated they will be in defiance. They'll be in defiance of Trump, and they'll do everything in their power in order to disable his presidency at every turn. And now you've got Mitch McConnell and Marco Rubio on the Republican side standing up and saying, we're not killers, because Trump basically said, we've done a lot of killing. We're not killers. These guys are hypocritical mother you-know-whats. The United States has been involved in the business of killing for close to 200 years, okay? I mean, climb on down from those towers, fellas. Let's get real about this. Of course, there's blood on our hands all over the world. All over the world, and historically, blood on our hands. This is why it's been difficult to really, be engaged and be excited and psyched about being an American, because after a while, you see what's going on, and the values that the country stands for are in a stark contrast with what's being practiced and instigated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in countries, war-torn theaters, you name it. Even our relationship with our good friend in the Middle East, who wants us to go to war with Iran now. And Trump is so far wrong on Iran, I can't even begin to state how unequivocally wrong he is. It's like the Israelis wasted no time in pushing him, in goading him into making those statements and those positions. He's wrong about Russia. He's wrong about the Ukraine. Look, this has not been a great week, except for the fact that the Patriots won. It's not been a great week for Donald Trump. And, what's going to happen is that the left and the media are just going to smell blood. And any time there is a miscue, they're just going to go after him. And they're just going to sick the dogs on Trump. And this is going to be a very difficult, I'm telling you, it's going to be a very difficult phase to get through. Very, very difficult phase to get through. If you're on the Trump side, if you like myself saw the potential for disrupting what had been going on in the country for the last 8 years, and you supported at the very least the disruption and not having Hillary Clinton in as a war president who wanted to go to war with Russia, make no mistake about it. If you saw that Trump was an opportunity to not participate in that and to get out of harm's way in a ridiculously trumped up controversy over Russia, if you saw that the Trump presidency was an opportunity to unplug from the globalist wet dream of the TPP, and you saw those things as positives, and he did unplug from the TPP, thank God for that. And some of the other mandates that were on the table, yeah, great. But you have to be, I would say at the very least, alarmed by how quickly the saber rattling has taken place. You have to be alarmed by it, because here was a president that was basically saying, we've gotten into these conflicts and they haven't served us. It's like, thank God, finally. Let's unplug from this beast in the Middle East. But has it happened? No. Now we're on to Iran. The only way it makes sense is if you plug into the greater Israel program. That's the only way taking on Iran makes any kind of sense. Because otherwise it makes no sense at all. None whatsoever. Somebody has got to step in. And first of all, they've got to stop the leaks. So I would say if Trump is serious about any of this, he's got to get out of the White House and go back to Trump Tower for a while. Trump Tower should be his new Camp David. That's number one. Number two, I think he's going to have to back off of the war rhetoric. Number three, he's stuck on the travel ban piece now. So if he backs off and rescinds the travel ban, he loses. Now he's got to go all the way. He's got to fight this thing, even though I think it was not a great move, especially because Saudi Arabia was not part of the travel ban. Can't do that. The Saudis have too much money. Not like those poor-ass Yemenis who are fighting for their lives. But he's got to go all the way now. He's got to win the travel ban. He's got to win it. That's critical. So if he doesn't, he looks like if he loses the travel ban, and I think ultimately there are articles there are articles that state clearly that if a person has some kind of medical condition, if they can be held for some kind of quarantine. I mean, there are parts in there inside of the I read this inside of the rules and regulations for travel bans that could actually be justified, but they have not been engaged and not been activated. There's just this kind of widespread travel ban in these countries. But he's going to have to win this now, because if he rescinds, it's a loss, and he loses. So whether or not I believe in it, from the Trump perspective, he's got to win the travel ban. If he wins the travel ban and he gets in his next appointee, he just got Betsy DeVos in 51-50. She's the new Secretary of Education. All of his people are being ultimately approved of, whether they're barely approved or whether there's the nuclear option. He's going to have to get all of his people in. He's going to have to win the travel, and then he's going to have to back off a little bit. He's going to have to back off the Iran piece. But Netanyahu's running around now. Netanyahu's coming to the United States. He's going to England, and his job is to sell a war with Iran. They won't take on Iran. No, they'll provide all the information and all the intelligence and blah, 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 blah. But they won't take on Iran. If Israel wants a war with Iran, go fight it. Go fight your war. Take them on. That's your war. That's not our beef. We have got to get out of the Middle East. You know, I have these debates with people about the pipeline in the oil. I am not in favor of fracking by any measure, but I'll tell you what. If we could somehow really get energy independent and get our ass out of the Middle East, I am for it. I'm sorry. Got some free energy coming our way? That'd be great. Bring it on. It's not happening anytime soon, I'm telling you. But we have got to get our ass out of the Middle East. And I'm sorry, I think Trump is too compromised unless he's got that Uranus-Sun conjunction where he does a crazy pivot and pisses everybody off who helped get him into office, in which case, roll the Zapruder film. But we've got to get out of the Middle East. It's essential. Energy independence is going to be part of it. Finding other energy partners is going to be a part of it. If you have not figured it out yet, it is our Achilles heel. But I did Trump's chart synastically with Israel, and they're so tight, they're so close. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And Mike Pence, the number 2 guy, the backup quarterback, Mike Pence is hardcore Zionist. When Trump announced Pence to be his running mate, he did so in Zionsville, Indiana. You think that's a mistake? No, it's no mistake at all. So unfortunately, this is where we're at. And I think, when Trump was gaining lots of momentum and breaking a lot of the taboos that I think a lot of people were really interested in, to liberate the voice, to be able to speak and think freely. And I don't care whether you think it was a permission to be hateful and racist. I don't care about that. I think we all have the right to speak and think freely and clearly. Now, can we be sensitive and compassionate? Sure, absolutely. I think it's an important filter to run everything through, but not ultimately at the risk of suppressing our thoughts, and suppressing our ability to speak. But at the end of the day, you don't have to listen to what I say. You don't have to come back to this broadcast. You don't have to do that. See, that's the beauty of it. And if you align with what I'm saying in my ideas, then great. And we'll talk more, and I'll speak more, and we'll evolve this thing. I was talking with Darren Williams today. I'm going to have, on Friday, I'm going to try to get Kair Carter, Kair Love, my brother down in the ATL, really fine astrologer. Kair and I used to do a lot more on the radio back around 2010, 2011. He wanted to talk about Trump. I'm going to bring Kair on the show. I got to reach out to him. I was trying to do it last week, but last week was not a great week. And I talked with Darren Williams, Dazzle Theory. We did a half-hour segment today from Darren Beat in Liverpool. And I'll play that segment on Friday. So we get Kair on, we get Darren on. I might try to get another guest on, Emily from Randy Morgan's show. Emily's got a lot of interesting insight into tennis, in the esoteric and occult world of tennis. It might be an interesting conversation. I get to talk a lot. On Friday, I'll talk with some other people. Tomorrow, I want to get into a little bit about not just the right-left conflict, but what the right-left conflict represents, which I think has to do ultimately with the denied masculine and the hyper excitement or the hyper attenuated feminine, and why these two are so out of balance, and the response between the two as it reflects this kind of clash of the left-right and the ideals and the morality. So tune in tomorrow for that discussion. You may like it, you may not. You may disagree, you may agree with me. It's Robert Phoenix, 15 Minutes of Flame. Have a great day.
Now, you can't just call yourself an expert. You got to earn that title. And at Wingstop, we've been earning it for decades. Want the secret? Start from scratch. Make to order. Sauce by hand in one of 11 mind-melting flavors. Serve hot with scratch-made ranch. Repeat for over 20 years. That's how you become an expert. Wingstop, the wing experts.